The Giants actually won a game. Can you believe it? What's going on, guys? It's the Draft Nerd, and today we're going to be reacting to the Giants' Week 3 win over the Browns. The first win for the Giants. Hallelujah. And man, when I tell you this game started off bad, it started off terrible. Opening kickoff, Eric Gray returns it, he fumbles it. And then what happens on the Browns' very first offensive play? They throw like a 24-yard touchdown to Amari Cooper. And it was a perfect throw from Deshaun Watson and a perfect catch, perfect route, perfect everything. And right around this moment, maybe less than a minute into the game, I was, almost about to turn the TV off. I was like, here we go again. The Giants are going to come out, look like absolute shit, and they're just going to be dragging their feet the entire game. And, I thought it was going to continue after that touchdown. We get the ball back. Eric Gray brings it out again, which I was like, he better not fumble again, which he didn't, but one of the first plays on offense that we actually had, Daniel Jones throws a really bad and inaccurate interception that was luckily, thank God, called back for roughing the passer, which was a little bit of a, I don't know, I don't want to say it was a bad call because, Daniel Jones did get hit in the face, but it was a little bit of a soft call, I'm not going to lie. But the interception got called back, and then later that drive, the Giants went on a really good long drive. It was like a 12-13 play drive, and it ended with the Devin Singletary 1-yard touchdown, which tied the game at 7-7. And, from that point on, really after that Daniel Jones, interception that got called back, the Giants completely dominated the first half. The offense looked fluid. The defense was absolutely smothering the Browns offense. Our defensive line, what I like to call the big three, and Kayvon Thibodeaux, Dexter Lawrence, and Brian Burns, for the first week, they were actually getting after the quarterback at a really, really good rate. And now the Browns offensive line has really been struggling with, keeping Deshaun Watson clean. So maybe not the most impressive offensive line to do it against, but, Brian Burns had a breakout game for the first time in a Giants uniform with 6 pressures and a sack. Dexter Lawrence had another amazing game with 7 pressures and 2 sacks. And then Kayvon Thibodeaux, a little bit lacking, 2 pressures and 0 sacks, but he seemed to be all around the quarterback, so I'm surprised he only got 2 pressures. But overall, that Giants defense was absolutely suffocating the Browns offense. Aside from that one play, that Amari Cooper touchdown, they really couldn't get anything going, in the run game or the pass game, just because Deshaun Watson couldn't, hold on to the ball for more than 2 seconds. So, the first half was really, really well. Like I said, the Giants were driving on offense. Daniel Jones looked like an actual serviceable quarterback, actually making good throws and good decisions. And Malik Nabers, was absolutely showing out. He probably saved another Daniel Jones interception by absolutely mossing. I can't remember who the defender was. It might have been Martin Emerson, but he absolutely mossed him, and it kind of saved a Daniel Jones interception. And then he also had a 5-yard touchdown where it was a really nice out route or corner route. It was perfectly ran. And then he also had a quick in route too. So he had 2 touchdowns with 55 yards in the first half. He was going absolutely crazy. And then the roles reversed. The Browns looked, solid on offense. They're able to move the ball, protect Deshaun Watson for a little bit longer. And then the Giants just got a little too complacent for my liking. And I understand what Brian Daboll was probably trying to do. You're up 2 scores. You don't want Daniel Jones to lose you the game by throwing a stupid interception. So he really kept it on the ground in the third quarter, which led to basically all punts. I think it was in the third quarter where Devin Singletary had a fumble as well. But the Giants' offense completely turned static all of a sudden, and then Deshaun Watson was finding success on offense, which led to the Browns scoring on an Amari Cooper slant, which was really, really well ran against Deonte Banks. And, Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners in the league, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. And then they went for a 2-point conversion, and it converted on that as well, which made the score 21-15 going into the fourth quarter. And the Giants continued to struggle. They started to pass a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive since it was a 1-score game, obviously. But, they just couldn't quite get anything going on offense. And then late in the fourth quarter, the Browns had the ball. And they had a decision to either go for it on 4th and 1, in their own territory, or punt it and have that defense, who was playing good at this point, try to stop the Giants offense one more time. They ended up choosing to go for it on 4th and 1, and they did not convert, which gave the Giants, amazing field position. They were basically already in field goal range, and in a 6-point game, that field goal would have, won them the game. But, in typical Giants fashion, the newly signed kicker, Greg Joseph, misses I think it was like a 42-yard attempt. Like, it was a very makeable field goal, and he just completely pushed it right. Just typical Giants things. When you got, the win in your hands, you just completely mess it up. It's just what the Giants do. And the Browns had the ball on, I believe, like their own 30-ish yard line, and they were driving a little bit. The Giants did force them into a 4th and 3, and thankfully, the Giants defense stood tall, and we actually won this game. I mean, it was a really well played game for the Giants. We actually looked like a somewhat competent NFL team for the first time in a long time. So it was really nice to see. Are the Browns the best team in the world? No, not really. But are they a better team than us? Yes, and we still beat them. So it's a really good confidence booster for this team. And if we can just string together a couple more wins in a couple more weeks, I think we could still have a chance to maybe make the playoffs. Although I'm not betting on it. Don't think I think we're going to make the playoffs, because we got a short week against Dallas this coming Thursday, and that'll probably be an L, even though Dallas hasn't looked very great. But moving on to just some of the key stats from this game. Daniel Jones went another week without a big-time throw. He's only got 1 on the season in 3 games, which, Daniel Jones, he doesn't have to make the big-time throws as long as he doesn't make the turnover-worthy plays. And although he did have 1 turnover-worthy play this week, he only has 2 on the season, counting that one. So he's keeping the ball out of harm's way, which is a really, really good sign. He's went back-to-back weeks without an interception, although he could have very easily had one today. And then he was only sacked twice. He was kept clean almost that entire game. And even when he was pressured, he was able to, maneuver the pocket, get out of harm's way, and either throw the ball away, run it for a few yards, or even pass it to an open receiver. His pocket presence was actually really good this game, even with guys like Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett, breathing down his neck. So I really liked how Daniel Jones played. He got the ball out quick. He didn't allow the Browns pass rush to, really get to him. And then Devin Singletary, he played good the past 2 weeks, but his games are always tarnished with a costly fumble. He had another one today. That's 2 on the season already through 3 weeks. But he added 2 10-plus yard runs, which I consider explosive runs. So that was really good to see. He's that offensive line is blocking really well, both in the run block and pass blocking game, which we'll get to the offensive line in a little bit, and I'll give them their flowers. And then Devin Singletary also added 40 yards receiving, so he played really well except for that fumble. And then getting to Malik Nabers, I mean, this guy's an absolute stud. One of the best young receivers we've seen in a while, and we got 2 of them this year in Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. And then Rome Odunze's had a bit of a slower start, but he did get his first touchdown this week, which was really nice to see. But there's just so many good young receivers, and thankfully the Giants finally got an alpha receiver, which they've been lacking ever since they traded away Odell Beckham. And he continues to eat teams up after the catch. Just when he gets the ball into his hands, that's not when the play's over. He's going to make at least one guy miss and pick up, 5+ more yards. So he's just a really dangerous threat all around. And the Giants were even, giving him a couple end arounds as well. So they're just getting them the ball, which he is really that entire offense. And, that's not necessarily a good thing. But, I mean, maybe next year you get a couple more weapons. Maybe get a new quarterback. I mean, Daniel Jones has been playing all right. But, we still need a new quarterback. And I think this offense could be really, really good. Moving on to the offensive line, like I said, Andrew Thomas, and you got to keep in mind he was going against Myles Garrett, who is a, borderline, maybe the best pass rusher in the league. He's at least top 3 in my opinion. So Andrew Thomas did allow 8 pressures, which is a lot, but again, it's Myles Garrett. But he didn't allow a single sack, which was the, the silver lining. He might have lost a couple reps to Myles Garrett, but he never allowed that sack. He gave Daniel Jones just enough time to either escape the pocket or throw the ball away or get the pass out on time. He did not allow a single sack. John Runyon only allowed 2 pressures, no sacks. John Michael Schmitz, 2 pressures, no sacks. And then Greg Van Roten, who has, somewhat been struggling in pass protection, only allowed 1 pressure, no sacks. And then also Jermaine Illuminor, who went up against Myles Garrett a couple times, but mainly had the Zadarius Smith assignment. He allowed 4 pressures and 0 sacks. So the main thing I'm taking away from this is, yes, we allowed a good amount of pressures, but we didn't allow a single sack. And earlier when I said Daniel Jones was sacked 2 times, those were from either tight ends or running backs or something like that allowing a sack. But the offensive line, kept Daniel Jones about as clean as you can when you're going against a really good pass rush like the Browns have. And moving on to the defense, like I talked about earlier, Dexter Lawrence, 7 pressures, Brian Burns, 6 pressures, Kayvon Thibodeau, 2 pressures, and then also a breakout game from Elijah Chapman, who had 4 pressures and a sack. That defensive line just in general, those four played very, very well. And also something that Shane Bowen isn't necessarily known for, which is blitzing. He blitzed the Browns a lot. Bobby Okereke got a sack. Michael McFadden had 3 pressures and a sack. And he also sent Isaiah Simmons in on some blitzes. The Giants were not letting the Browns, have a clean pocket at all this game. And really, Michael Parsons and Bobby Okereke, they might be a very underrated linebacking duo. I mean, Bobby Okereke is more of that smart finesse player who's, decent in pass coverage. And then Michael McFadden is that guy who's just got his hair on fire, blitzing the quarterback, running all over the field. So I really, really like this linebacking core with Isaiah Simmons being that kind of like somewhat backup player. I mean, this is just a really good defense on paper, and they've been playing very well. Deonte Banks had probably his worst game of the season where he allowed 6 receptions for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did have a pass breakup, but still one of the worst games we've seen from Deonte Banks, which Amari Cooper is one of the better receivers in the league, so I'm not necessarily mad at it, but he's got to be better than that. Cordell Flott allowed 6 receptions for 51 yards, but he didn't allow a touchdown or anything like that, so, not the best game, but, it's kind of what you expect from Cordell Flott. He's not the best outside corner. And then Andrew Phillips got injured, in the beginning of this game. I think he only played about 10 snaps, but in those 10 snaps, he still looked really good. It was just unfortunate that we didn't really get to see him play this week, but I still am very, very high on Andrew Phillips. Tyler Nubin continues to play just really solid, sound football. He didn't allow a single reception. I don't think he had a missed tackle. He's just playing a very solid game. He's not making big splash plays with interceptions or forced fumbles or anything like that, but he's just playing super, super solid. And then Jason Pinnock, the other safety, he got a sack as well. So I believe that's 3 sacks on the season for a safety, which is really, really good. And then he only allowed 3 yards and pass coverage. So Jason Pinnock's playing like a really good safety. Tyler Nubin's playing very well. The outside cornerbacks are, a little bit iffy, but the linebackers are playing very well. The defensive line is coming around. This defense is looking very, very good. And, as long as we stay healthy, I think we could have a borderline top 10 to top 15 defense. It's looking up for the Giants. We're still not necessarily a playoff contender, in my opinion, but I think we're slowly, getting out of the conversation for being the laughingstock of the NFL. The Panthers did also win, though, so that doesn't help our case much. But, I just think this is a really good team that just needs to not lose themselves games like they did in Week 2 against Washington. And like I said earlier, it's a short week playing Dallas Thursday Night Football. I'd be stupid not to pick the Cowboys to win that game. But I'm also, for the first time in a long time, not scared of getting absolutely embarrassed by Dallas, if that makes sense. I still think Dallas is going to win, but I think we're going to put up a little bit of fight, especially if Andrew Phillips plays on the short week. I'm not sure what the extent of his injury is. I just do know he didn't return this game, so we'll have to see about that. But that's going to do it. Let me know what you guys think of the video, and as always, consider liking and subscribing, and thanks for watching.